Hello guys, welcome back to all. So in the last video we discussed about some functional groups, right? And now let us see, once again we have to revise the carbon compounds with the carbon, hydrogen and halogen. So those are called halogen derivatives of hydrocarbons, right? And the compounds with the carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So generally alcohol, we have discussed that OH functional group, it is called alcohol. And the second one is called aldehyde. Right? Aldehyde means CHO functional group. So of course here ROH, RCOH, this is the general formula. So here R means alkyl group, which means either it is methyl or ethyl, like this. The R is a alkyl group. And in the same way ketone group. Ketone means, what is the C double bond O? So this is called ketone group. So it may contain R and R dash. And the fourth one is called carboxylic acid. So generally carboxylic acid means this is COOH group, acid group. And the next one is called ethers. Ether means, so these are generally ROR dash, which means here R and R dash are alkyl groups. In the same way, the next one is called esters. And the next one, esters means, so this is RCOOH. So here R is COOH get replaced by the another alkyl group. So these are called esters. So these compounds like alcohol, aldehyde, ketone, carboxylic acid, ethers and esters, these are the compounds which contains carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So you have to identify if the OH group is present like this. So you definitely identify that is the alcohol. If CHO is there, then it is called aldehyde. In the same way, ketone, carboxylic acid, ethers and esters, like this. If for example CH3Cl is there, this is nothing but halogen derivatives of hydrocarbon. So like this you have to identify the names of the given compounds, then only you will be able to write the compound name. Okay, the next one is the compounds which are containing carbon, hydrogen and nitrogen. So generally compounds with carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, these are called amines. Already we discussed this one. So amines means, see, the NH2 group is called amine group. This is called amine group. So RNH2. So this is called amine group. We may compare the amines to NH3 as we have done ROH and ROR dash to H2O. Which means, for example, if the compounds having, if one hydrogen atom is replaced from NH3 by an alkyl group, we get the so-called is primary amines. Of course, there are three types of amines, primary amines. If two hydrogens are removed, then it is called secondary amines. If three, we get the secondary amines. If three hydrogen atoms are replaced by the same or different alkyl group, then we have to call it as tertiary amine groups. So for example, take CH3, NH and CH3. So this is called secondary amine because here two hydrogens are replaced by the methyl alkyl group, like this. So these are all about the functional groups. And now let us see what is the definition of functional group. So functional group means nothing but The characteristic properties of an organic compound depend mainly on an atom or group of atom in its molecule is known as the functional group. So these functional groups are very essential while writing the Iupac nomenclature. So next we have to discuss about what is the isomerism. So this is also one of the important property which is shown by the carbon. So let us see what is the isomerism. So what is the isomerism? Isomerism means the phenomenon of possessing the same molecular formula but different properties by the compound is known as the isomerism. And the compounds which are formed by this phenomenon is called isomers. So carbon can exhibit the isomerism. If you take one example, say for example CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3. So this is the compound 1. And take another compound CH3, CH3 and CH3. If you observe here, it contains 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons and hydrogens 3, 5, 7 and 10. So the molecular formula for the given compound is C4H10. So here if you observe here also the second one also having 1, 2, 3, 4 carbon atoms C4 and here also H10. So here if you are observing here, the two compounds may contain the same molecular formula C4H10. There are 4 carbons and 10 hydrogens, but here the structural arrangement is different. Then the name of the compound will also be changed. So here the first compound is called butane, or you maybe call it as the common name is N-butane obviously. But here the second one is called 2-methylpropane. See here, having the similar molecular formula but the structure is different and the name of the compound will also be changing here. So that is why this type of phenomenon is known as the isomerism, and these two compounds are called as isomers. Especially these two are called structural isomers because there is a change in their structure also. So isomerism is a phenomenon. There is not only a single type isomerism structural. In the higher standard we will study about many types of isomerisms, but you should understand what is isomerism. So isomerism means having the similar molecular formula but varying, which differ by their properties. So that sort of phenomenon is called isomerism, and the two compounds formed by this phenomenon is called isomers. So this is all about isomerism. And next we should know about what is the homologous series. So what is homologous series? So right now we have classified the organic compounds in many ways, which means basing on their carbon chains and functional groups, we are classified the organic compounds in different ways. So what is homologous series? So this is one of the way of classification of organic compounds. So homologous series means nothing but the series of carbon compounds in which two successive compounds differ by CH2 unit is called homologous series. If you observe here, CH4, C2H6, C3H8. So if you observe in the three compounds, there is a difference of CH2, which means one carbon atom and two hydrogens are differ in the three examples. So this is called homologous series. Especially the general formula for alkanes. Alkanes means already we discussed. These are the saturated hydrocarbons, which means in between the two carbon atoms there exists a single bond. And alkenes and alkynes, these two are called unsaturated hydrocarbons, which means alkenes means they contains double bond and alkynes contains triple bond, right? So here the general formula for alkanes is CnH2n plus 2. Very important. Here alkenes means CnH2n. Alkynes means CnH2n minus 2. See, if you see one example here, generally for the alkane we have to write it as C2H6. So this is called ethane. But if you write it as C2H4, this is called ethene. And now we have to write C2H2. So this is nothing but ethyne. So if you observe here, C2H6 means it is alkane because it follows the general formula CnH2n plus 2. C2H2, 2 to the 4 plus 2, CH6. So this is called ethane. Ane. Alkanes are named as anes. Alkane. So that is why this is ethane. So alkene means here there exists double bond C2H4. So general formula C2H2n, CnH2n. So C2H4. And alkyne triple bond. So general formula is CnH2n minus 2. So C2H4 minus 2, H2. So ethene, ethyne. So like this we have to mention the compound whether it is saturated or unsaturated. In the same way, is it alkane or alkene and alkyne. So this is all about the homologous series, and now we should learn how to name the compounds, that is nothing but nomenclature of organic compounds. So generally many students thought that it is somewhat difficult topic to understood, but if you know the rules very well, you can write the name of the compound very easily. Let us see what are the rules behind to write the nomenclature of the organic compound or the IUPAC name. So what is the nomenclature of organic compounds? See, generally the organic chemistry means it is nothing but the compounds which are contains carbon. So the compounds which are contain carbon are called organic compounds, and it is a branch to study about these organic compounds is called organic chemistry. Generally the organic chemistry deals with the millions of compound, right? So there are so many compounds are there. So as a number of organic compounds, it is difficult to remember their names individually. So to overcome this problem, they have to be properly named, which means every compound should have a particular rule to name the compound. So for this, there is IUPAC is an organization. It is an international union of pure and applied chemistry. So this organization has been named the organic compounds, and it is taking the responsibility to name the organic compounds and inorganic compounds in synthetic systematic manner. So, and this name of that compound is applicable anywhere in the world. So if there are number of new compounds may arrive, and the IUPAC should take that responsibility to name of that new compounds also. So this is all about IUPAC. And now how to name the organic compound? See, to study first time the nomenclature of organic compounds, it is somewhat difficult, but if you concentrate clearly, it will become very easy. So just concentrate. I will explain one by one. So just write down. So first, to name the organic compound, we should follow the 3 rules. What are the 3 rules means? So the first one is called, it contains the word root or the root word. You may call it as word root or root word. So this is the main part of the compound. Then after the word root, you have to write the suffix. Suffix means after the word. and before the word you have to write the prefix. Again, this prefix is two types, primary and secondary. So this is secondary, primary. Suffix is also primary suffix and secondary suffix. I will explain one by one what is a root word and how to write the prefix, what is a primary prefix and what is secondary prefix, what is a primary suffix and secondary suffix. I will explain one by one, okay? First we should know what is the root word. Word root or root word means, see, the compound may contains number of carbon atoms. So the number of carbon atoms that present in the molecule, we call it as the root word. For example, if a compound is containing only one carbon, then we call it as meth. If it contains 2 carbons, then it is called eth. If 3 carbons, prof. If 4 carbons, then it is called but. If 5 carbons, then it is called pent. If 6 carbon atoms, then it is hex. If 7 carbon atoms, hept. 8 carbons means this is oct. If it is 9 carbon, it is called non. And it is 10 carbons means it is dec. And so on, up to infinite number of carbons, because the carbon can form long chains, you know very well. So basing on that number of compound, you should remember the names. See, for example, take the compound like this, CH3, CH2, 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 CH3. So here how many carbons are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if it contains 5 carbon atoms, then the name of the compound will be pent, because it contains 5, like this. If it contains 10, then it is called dec. If it contains 7 means then it is called hept. So like this you have to name the root word. This is all about the root word. Next we will study about the prefix. So there are 2 types of prefixes are there. First one is called primary and second one is called secondary. So what is the primary prefix means? Generally primary prefix is nothing but it is applicable only for cyclic compounds, which means already we discussed linear compounds and cyclic compounds. If the compound is in cyclic form, then we have to mention their cyclic. If it is non-cyclic means the primary prefix will be absent for that compound, which means if the compound is cyclic, then only you have to write the primary prefix as a cyclic. Otherwise you need not write this one. And the secondary prefix means, see here, it is very important. Secondary prefix is tells about the second grade functional groups. So already we discussed what is functional group. And second grade functional groups means what? Which means you may call it as substituents. For example, take halogens. These halogens may be as substituents. Then if the halogen is present as a secondary prefix, then you have to write it as halo. If alkyl group is present, then you have to write it as alkyl. Which means if suppose methyl group is present, you have to write it as methyl. If it is ethyl, then you have to mention the secondary prefix as ethyl, like this. If alkoxy group is present, then you have to write alkoxy. So this is called secondary prefix. In some compounds, sometimes some compounds may contains more than 2 functional groups. In that situation, one functional group is giving priority, and that functional group is written as a suffix, and the remaining functional groups you may write it as a secondary prefix. So this point will be explained very clearly while doing exercise, okay? You need not worry about it. So you have to remember secondary prefix means nothing but secondary grade functional group, like you may call it as substituents. For example, take halogens, alkyl groups, alkoxy groups, like this. So this is all about the primary prefix and secondary prefix. In that primary prefix and secondary prefix, you may have more than one functional group. For example, in the secondary prefix, there are two methyl groups are there. For example, if a compound is like this, it may contain two methyl groups as a secondary prefix. Then you have to write it as dimethyl. If there are three, then you have to write it as trimethyl, like this. Here the di, tri are used to mention the number of compounds may contain double or triple. Is it okay? It should be written in the secondary prefix. Before the secondary prefix, you have to mention that di, tri, like this. Is it okay? And in the same way, if a compound is there like this, CH3, CH2, 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 like this, CH3. For example, here CH3 is there. So here, if the compound will have, the number is 2. Where the substituent is there, then you have to write the number 2-methyl, like this. Which means, when we are writing the secondary prefix, we are using numbers and numerals. Which means, at which position it contains, you have to mention the number, and numerals means like di, tri, etc. See, while doing exercises, it will give more clarity. Okay. Next, the next one we should discuss about the suffix. So here again, suffix is also two types: primary and secondary. So what is primary suffix? Primary suffix indicates that nothing but it tells about whether the given compound is saturated or unsaturated. Which means it is saturated, then it contains single bond. Unsaturation means double bond or triple bond. So if the given compound is saturated, then you have to name it as alkane, ane. You should write ane. If it is unsaturated, then you have to mention where the unsaturation is there. You have to mention the name, which means number of that carbon, and you have to write whether it contains double bond, then you have to write it as ene. If it contains triple bond, ine, like this. Which means the primary suffix indicates the compound is saturated or unsaturated. Is it okay? And the secondary suffix indicates, it tells about the functional groups. Which means already we discussed, if the alcohol is there, which means OH group is there, then we have to call it as alcohol. If CHO group is there, then we have to call it as aldehyde. Is it okay? If suppose the ketone group is there, then we have to write it as one. Ketone is there, that means that is C double bond, like this. If the alcohol is there, OH group is there. Alcohol means OH group. Aldehyde means CHO. Ketone means C double bond O. If acid group is there, then we have to name it as COOH. And how we should remember, we should mention that functional group while writing the name of the compound. So here I am giving one table to explain when the functional group is present at which position, then how the name of that functional group will change. So see here the class, formula, prefix and suffix. Suffix and prefix for some important characteristic functional groups. You should remember this table if it possible. See, if it is a acid halide, which means COX. Here X means halogen, already we know. X means fluorine or chlorine or bromine, iodine, astatine, like this. So then the prefix is halocarbonyl and suffix is carbonyl halide or oil halide. So what is prefix and suffix? Which means if the compound is there like this, CH3, CH2, CH2 and so on. If the COX is present at the suffix, which means this is the word root. If before it comes, then we call it as prefix. and after word root it comes, then we call it as suffix. We know it. So if it considered as a prefix, then the name will be halocarbonyl, and if it is a suffix, then the name will be carbonyl halide. See, in the same way, if suppose it is an alcohol, if alcohol is there, alcohol means OH. If it is a prefix, then we have to write hydroxy. If it is suffix, then we have to write ol, ol. Alcohol means ol. Aldehyde means CHO. So if it is prefix, then we have to write it as formyl or oxo. Both are right. So carbaldehyde or al, which means in some cases we are writing carbaldehyde. In generally we are writing al. Al for aldehyde and ol for alcohol. If it is amide group, amide means CONH2, then we have to write it as oxo or carbamyl, and carboxamide, we have to write carboxamide. If it is called amine, amine means only NH2, so that is called amino as a prefix, and suffix we have to write it as amine. If it is acid group, COOH, carboxylic acid or oic acid, generally we are writing as oic acid. If it is ether means OR group, or methyl oxy. If it is methyl group is there, then we have to write as methoxy. Generally ethers will be present at the prefix only. And esters means oxycarbonyl, carboxylate or O8, like this. Ketone group, ketone means C double bond O, oxo and one, one. And nitriles means CN, cyano, nitrile or carbonitrile. So these are the this is very important table. You should know the names and you should remember the names, then only you are able to write the name of any organic compound. See, generally up to this 10th class standard, there are only few functional groups are given, but you should remember all the names. See, so this is what about the suffix and prefix for some functional groups. And now, so this is all about the suffix what we have discussed, which means the secondary suffix. If the given compound is hydrocarbon, then you have to write it as E. If it is alcohol, already we discussed, alcohol means ol. If it is aldehyde, then al. If it is ketone, then on. If it is acid, carboxylic acid, then we have to write it as oic acid. So generally these functional groups are very asked regularly in your examination, but you have to remember the remaining names also. In the same way, in the suffix also there may be functional groups may contain double or triple, like this. If the alcohol group is present in double as a functional group, then you have to write diol or triol, like this. So here also numerals may be used in the suffix also, secondary suffix. Already we discussed in the secondary prefix we are using the numbers and numerals, right? In the secondary suffix also we are using the numbers and numerals, because the alcohol group may contain at the third position, then we have to write 3-ol. If it contain at the fifth position, then we have to write it as 5-ol, which means, see, overall idea I am giving. So first you have to write the word root. First it is important. Word root means the compound may contains the number of carbons. If 5 carbons are there, then we have to call it as pent. If 3 are there, prop, like that you have to write the name of the compound first. Then after the word root, at the left hand side, first you have to write the primary prefix. Then after you have to write the secondary prefix. So this is the order. So this is primary prefix and secondary prefix. So on the right hand side, we have to write the primary suffix. Then after secondary suffix. So this is the order. Is it clear? You just remember this in your brain. Then only you will able to write. So we know, you know very well, primary prefix means if it is a cyclic compound, then only you have to write it as cyclic. Otherwise you need not write it. If it is a given compound is a linear compound, then you need not to write the primary prefix. You just ignore it. Then you have to write the secondary prefix. Secondary prefix means generally substituents and halogens and or alkoxy groups or alkyl groups may present most probably as a secondary suffix. So secondary prefix means it is nothing but substituents. Sometimes the functional groups may also comes under secondary prefix. And come on to the right hand side. Here primary suffix means whether the compound is saturated or unsaturated. You have to remember whether it is saturated or unsaturated. It should be mentioned as a primary suffix. And secondary suffix means that is nothing but functional group. So this is the order of writing the nomenclature of the given compound. And now let us practice some examples. Then we will get the confidence. And if you have any doubt, I will explain one by one. Okay. So example 1. The compound is given CH3, CHCl, CHCl and CH3. So here this is the compound. If you observe here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 carbons are there. So that is why you have to write it as bute. First you have to write the root word bute. Then think about the primary suffix. If you see, all are single bonds. So single bonds means it is saturated. So this is butane. Butane. Then after think about secondary prefix. See here there is no secondary prefix suffix because there is no functional group, right? The functional group is absent means it is only the hydrocarbon. So butane. Then you have to write butane. Means first we are writing the root word, then after primary suffix and secondary suffix we are writing. Comes here. What is the primary prefix? It is a cyclic, non-cyclic, acyclic compound. So you just ignore the primary prefix. Then think about the secondary prefix. So if you observe here, there are 2 halogens are there, 2 chlorine atoms are present. So these 2 are substituents. So you have to mention the 2 chlorine atoms at the secondary prefix. See here, if you observe here, the 2 chlorine atoms will present at 2 different carbons. So at which positions? At second position, at third position. So you have to write it as 2, 3. If more than 1, if more than 2 or 1, the substituent will present, then you have to distinguish in between the 2 numbers. You have to put the comma. And then after you just put an hyphen. 2, 3 hyphen. How many chlorine atoms are there? 2. So then you have to write di. So halo. Halo means here chloro. Because chlorine is there. So that is why chloro. Like this 2, 3 dichlorobutane. So the name of the given compound is 2, 3 dichlorobutane. So like this we have to write the name of the compound. So this is the first example. And take second example. So the given compound is CH3, single bond C, double bond CH, single bond CH, triple bond CH. So this is the second compound. So here first you see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See here there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 carbons are there. So that is why the root word is pent, right? And now think about primary suffix. See, if you observe here, it is not a saturated compound because it contains a double bond and triple bond. So you have to mention this double bond and triple bond as a primary suffix. Okay, I will write the primary suffix. Then you just think about what is the secondary suffix here. There is no functional group, right? Which means you need not to write the secondary suffix. You just write the primary suffix. That's enough. Okay. And comes after, what is the primary prefix? There is no primary prefix because it is not a cyclic compound. And think about the secondary prefix. Here there is no secondary prefix also because there is no substituents. It is a single linear compound. Only carbohydrate is given. No functional groups and no substituents, right? So you have to write pent. Here the double bond is there and triple bond is there. If you write here, first at third position there is a double bond. Double bond means ene, alkene. So that is why pent 3 ene, and at fifth position ine. So the name of the compound is pent 3 ene and 5 ine because at third position double bond is there. So that is why we are writing 3 ene, and at fifth position triple bond is there. So we are writing 5 ine. But it is the wrong name. It is not the correct name. Why? Because see here in the first example we are giving the number from left to right, from left hand to right hand. But in the second also we are giving the number from left to right. But here in this case it becomes wrong. Why? Because if any compound may contain a unsaturation. Unsaturation means if it contains a double bond or triple bond in the compound, then that unsaturation should be given the least number. So if I am giving the number from right to left, if you see this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you are while writing by using this number, the compound will be pent. At third position similarly the ene, which means double bond is present at the third position, but triple bond is present at the first position, 1, 9. So this is the correct answer. Why? Because if any compound may contain unsaturation, then that unsaturation should be given the lowest number. If you observe in the first case 3 ene 5 ine, so 5 is greater number when compared to 1. So that is why here the numbering should be given from right to left. And also some compounds may contain, if suppose the compound may contain here triple bond and here only double bond, which means just wait. At this place it contains double bond and here triple bond. So then what is the name of the compound? So pent 3 ine 1 ene, right? But here also this is not accepted. Why? We are giving the lowest value to the unsaturation. Then why it is wrong? Why it is not accepted? Which means here we should follow one more rule. What is the rule means? See, when unsaturation is present, then we have to follow the alphabetical order. According to alphabetical order, the ene first comes, then after ine. So then the name of the compound will be pent 1-ene 3-ine. So this is the accepted. So if here in the first case, here double bond is there and triple bond is there. So the name will be pent 3-ene 1-ine. It is accepted because it is according to the alphabetical order only the name will be written. So this is the name of the compound. So this is second example. Like this you have to work on the compounds. Okay. Next, let us see the third one. So this is the third compound. See 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 carbons. So that is why but. And here OH group is there. OH means alcohol group. So alcohol group is written as a functional group. Okay. There is no suffix. No substituent here. Which means you need not to write primary prefix as well as secondary prefix because there is no cyclic compound. It is not a cyclic compound. So that is why you need not write primary prefix. And secondary prefix also absent because there is no substituent. But here two alkyls are present. Two alcohol groups are present. If alcohol is there as a functional group, which means as a secondary suffix, then you have to write ol. Then how to given the number? From left to right or right to left? So first I am giving number 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I will giving number from right to left 1, 2, 3, 4. So which is acceptable method? According to left to right the number is given, then the compound name will be at 4th position and 3rd position. At 2 positions 2 alcohol groups are there. So that is why here but. And what is the primary suffix here? It is ane only because it is saturated compound. There is no double bond and triple bond. So butane, comma 3, 4 diol is the name of the compound. I am writing here from left to right. If suppose I am writing from right to left, then the name of the compound will be butane 1, 2 diol. So which is acceptable one? The second one is acceptable. First one is not accepted. Why? Why, ma'am? See here, there are 2 alcohols are present, so that is why we are writing diol. Of course, at 1, 2 position, so that is why we are mentioned the number also. Then why it is acceptable? Here there is a one rule that is called lowest sum rule. What is lowest sum rule means? See, if you add the numbers, if you add the 3 plus 4, it gives 7. 1 plus 2, it gives 3. So what is the least number? Obviously 1, 2 is the least number. In the in the second example, we told that the unsaturation, where the unsaturation is there, it should be given the lowest value. Already explained. In the same way, here also the functional group is also giving the lowest value. In the first case, it gives 3, 4. So this is highest value. In the second case, 1, 2. So this is the lowest value. So any unsaturation or any functional group, it should given the lowest value. Otherwise, in the remaining cases, you should given the number from left to right only. But the compounds may contain some unsaturation or any functional group, then you are giving priority to that compound, to the functional group as well as the unsaturation. Is it okay? So if you, what is this? See, before going to do some exercises, we should know this rule also. See, if the compound may contains more than one functional group, more than 2 functional groups, it means multiple functional groups. If the compound may contain, for example, CH3, CH2, CH and so on. It may contains one alcohol group, at the same time one amine group, OH and CH2. So which one giving as a priority? So this is the priority order, decreasing order of priority for choosing the naming a particular characteristic group, which means if the functional group is given more than one, then there is a priority order, decreasing priority order, which means first you should given priority to the alcohol group. So you should remember this order also, it is very important. First priority is given to the alcohol, acid, sorry, it is acid, COOH, carboxylic acid. First priority is always given to the acid group. Then after anhydride group, CH3CO twice O means this is called anhydride. And the next priority is given to the ester. Then after acid halide, X means halide. Then after amide. Then after nitrile group. Then after aldehyde, ketone, alcohol and finally amine. Which means the amine is giving the least priority, alcohol is giving the highest priority. You should remember this order, it is very important. So if suppose OH group is there and NH2 group is there, which one is giving priority? Definitely alcohol group, because it is having more priority than NH2 group. If suppose nitrile group is there, at the same time COOH is there, acid is there, so the first priority is always given to the acid only. So you just remember this what you call this priority order also. So in the Iupac nomenclature we are doing some activities. So if you observe the first one, there are 4 carbons, so all are single bonds. So that is why the name of the compound will be butane. There is no prefix and no suffix. If you see the second compound, so it is also having no prefix and no suffix, but here double bond is there, unsaturation. So the numbering should be given from right to left like this, 1 2 3 4. So here the compound name is but1ene, because at the first position there will be double bond, unsaturation. And the third one, CH3, CHCl, CH2, CH3. Here also there is no suffix and no unsaturation, but here one substituent is there. So the name of the compound will be 2-chlorobutane. And here if you see at 1 2 3 4 at second and third positions, so that is why 2,3 dichlorobutane. Like this, there are some more examples. See, if you see here the fifth one, 4 carbons are there, so that is why here that is called but. But here there are 2 double bonds at first and second carbons, so that is why the name of the compound will be buta 1,2 diene, because here the double bond is present at 2 positions, so that is why 1,2 diene. And if you see here one functional group is there, so this is OH group, so numbering should be given from right to left. So what is the name of the compound? Butan 1-ol, because at the first position OH group is there. So here in the same way here 1 2 3 4, so CHO is aldehyde, so the name of the compound will be butanol, because ALL. See, if here CHO is a aldehyde functional group, if aldehyde is there, at the suffix ALL is added, so that is why here butanol. But here you have to observe one point. Here the carbon is present in the CHO functional group, but it is also added as the first carbon, counted as a first carbon, because the functional group which may contains the carbon atoms, that is also counted as a one of the carbon in that molecule. So that is why this is the first carbon, and 2, 3, 4. In the same way, if you see here, so here also there are 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons are there, because here COOH is a acid group. Here the acid group, the carbon is also counted as a one of the carbon in that compound. So what is the name of the compound? Oic acid, because it is carboxylic acid. So 4 carbons. So that is why here the name of the compound will be butanoic acid, butanoic acid. And the next one, so it is a cyclic compound, and 1, 2, 3, 4 carbons are there. No functional groups are there, and no substituents also there. So the name of the compound will be cyclobutane. So like this, by practicing thoroughly, you will get the correct name of the compounds. Okay, next we will discuss some more examples. See, if you observe here, it is also cyclic compound, but here two substituents are present at 2 carbons. So numbering 1, 2, 3, 4. Butane, cyclobutane. But here the 2 substituents are present at 1, 2 position. So that is why 1, 2 dibromo cyclobutane. So we can write the name like this. See, here also 2 substituents are there, but functional group is aldehyde, 1, 2, 3. So at second and third position, 2 chloro groups are there. So that is why 2, 3 dichloropropanol, because Al is for aldehyde. In the same way, see the next one. Here one functional group is given here, that is ketone group. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See here the numbering should be given from left to right or right to left. Here in this case we are giving from right to right only, because the functional group should contain the lowest value. So that's why here pentane 2-one, because at the second position ketone group is there. So like this, by practicing we will get the correct names. Otherwise, by knowing all the rules without practice means we are not able to write the name of the compound, because in your examination there are not the exact compounds will be given. See, if you observe here, CH3, CH2, CHO, 1, 2, 3. So name of the compound will be propanol, because aldehyde is present. In the second one, see here one acid group and aldehyde group both are present as a functional group. So here in this case the priority should be considered. So always acid takes the first priority. So that is why the name of the compound will be, if you are considering the name 1, 2, 3. So at the second position aldehyde is there. If aldehyde is present as a prefix, so now the aldehyde is a secondary prefix, substituent. So if aldehyde is there, then we have to write it as formyl, 2 formyl, and 1, 2, 3 carbons. So that is why propanoic acid, propanoic acid. So the name of the compound is 2-formyl propanoic acid, because COOH is taken as a first priority. And if you see this compound CH3, CH2OH, see it is generally the name of the compound is ethyl alcohol, because OH is there, alcohol is there, but the name of this compound will be ethanol, because 1, 2 only 2 carbons are there. That's why here eth and OH group, all ethanol. In the same way, so here one compound is there. So what is the name of the compound? Here two alcohol groups are there. If you are giving number at 1, 2 positions, so that is where the name of the compound should be ethane 1, 2 diol, because at 2 positions 2 alcohol groups are there as functional groups. Next, so if you see here CH3, C double bond O, CH2, 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 CH2 and OH. If you observe here, in this case there are two functional groups are present again. One is ketone group and another one is alcohol group. So which one is which one is considered as priority? So always the ketone group is giving priority than the alcohol. So that is why here the ketone group is functional group, whereas the alcohol is substituent here in this case. So what is the name of the compound should be? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Because here the functional group is ketone, so it should be given the lowest value. So that is why numbering is given from left to right. So the ketone group is functional group. And now heptane, because all are single bonds. Heptane 2 one, because at the second position ketone is there. So that is why 2 one. But here at 7th position OH, alcohol is there. This is substituent. When alcohol is present as a prefix, then we have to write it as 2-hydroxy heptane 2 one. So like this we should write the name of the compound by giving priority to the functional groups. And if you see the next one, CH2 double bond CH, CH2OH, CH, CH3. So here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here in this case, how to write the, how to give a number to the compound means, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what is the name of the compound? Pentane, pent. At 4th position double bond is there, so that is why pent 4 in 3 ol. But here if you are giving number from like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then it becomes pent 2 in 3 ol. So the functional group is at the 3rd position only. So in that case there is no change in the functional group. So then we have to write it as pent 2 in 3 ol. So like this we have to write the names of some compounds. Next, so here see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that is why this is octane. But here unsaturation is given and 2 substituents are given and 2 functional groups also given. So the functional group is given, so that is why the numbering should be given in this way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So octane, octa. At which position the unsaturation is given means at 6, 7 position. 6, 7 diene, comma at 1, 2 positions alcohol is there. So octa 6, 7 diene, 1, 2 diol. But before there are 2 substituents are there. So that is why 5, 6 dichloro, 6 octa, 6, 7 diene, 1, 2 diol. So here in this example there are substituents are given and unsaturation given, at the same time functional group given. So like this, see, when you see the compound you don't think that, see, it's a very big compound, we may not write the name. but you just see how many carbons are present in that compound. First write the word root. Then you go for what is the primary suffix, whether it is saturated or unsaturated. Then you will go for secondary suffix. In the same way before, you should think about the primary prefix, whether it is present. Okay, if it is not, you just ignore it, and then think about the secondary prefix. By following the rules, then you will able to write the name of any compound. So this is today's class. Hope I think all of you understood well. Okay.